If someone you know is talking about MiMik, please don't let them download it. This all started when my family moved to this small logging town in the Pacific Northwest about a month ago, after my parents' messy divorce. To put it bluntly, my dad found nudes on my mom's phone from multiple guys in our town. She met them through various dating apps, and it destroyed him. He packed up me and my little brother and moved us as far away from our old life as possible to one of those foggy mountain towns where everyone knows your business, and the biggest excitement is usually the high school making it to regionals. Dad developed this intense hatred of technology after everything that happened. No smartphones, no social media, barely even lets us use his old laptop as long as it's for homework, he'd say sternly. I get it, his world fell apart because of what he found on a phone. But it's made fitting in at our new school basically impossible. My first day, I noticed something that struck me as odd. Almost every student was wearing the exact same style of flannel shirt, rolled up sleeves at the elbow in this very specific way that looked almost ritualistic. They'd even tied their shoelaces in these elaborate flower-shaped knots that must have taken forever to master. It's from MiMik, explained Jenny. She was assigned to be my hallway buddy for the first day of school. While her mood was chipper, she had this distant look in her eyes, like she was thinking about something else entirely while talking to me. Everyone's doing it. You should really get the app. I don't have a phone. She stared at me like I just told her I didn't have lungs. That's weird. How do you keep up with anything? That afternoon in the cafeteria, I felt an uneasy pit in my stomach form as I watched the other kids. Most of the students were eating their lunch in perfect synchronization. They'd take a bite, chew exactly 7 times, swallow, then repeat. After every swallow, they would look at each other and laugh, like there was some hilarious inside joke that only a few of us weren't in on. The entire room moved like the hive mind. The sounds of coordinated chewing echoed off the walls. When I asked my lab partner about it, he just gave me the same empty smile Jenny had given me earlier and said, MiMik challenge. You wouldn't understand. My reputation for being phoneless was spreading like a virus. My little brother Danny started complaining constantly at home. Everyone at school thinks I'm a freak. They all have phones, and I'm the only kid without one. I can't do any of the challenges or trends. I just sit alone at lunch while everyone else stares at me. But Dad wouldn't budge. Every time Danny brought it up, Dad would get this look in his eyes and change the subject. I understood his trauma, but watching my 11-year-old brother become more isolated every day was heartbreaking. The challenges I observed at school started innocently enough. Kids would whisper about Flannel Friday and # 7-bite challenge and # Flower Knot Tuesday. Weird and robotic, but harmless. I figured it would blow over like every other social media trend. Then came # Devious Licks. I was sitting in Mr. Fredericks's biology class, taking notes on metamorphosis, when I felt something wet and warm slide across the back of my neck. I spun around to find Keith grinning at me, with his tongue still slightly hanging out of his mouth. Got you, he whispered, like we were playing some perverted game of tag. What the hell is wrong with you? Devious Licks challenge. You're supposed to laugh now. I got you, but I didn't laugh. Everyone around us glared intensely toward the interaction, most with their phones out. I was half expecting someone to stand up for me and call out his disgusting behavior, but even the teacher started to chuckle as he lifted his phone's camera toward my direction. He got you good. Within hours, students were creeping up behind each other everywhere. During lectures, in hallways, at lunch tables, the wet sound of tongues on necks became as common as locker doors slamming. The most disturbing part wasn't the licking itself, it was how the victims reacted. They'd dissolve into these manic fits of laughter, like getting licked by a stranger was the most hilarious thing that had ever happened to them. Next up was # rib tickle. I sat in horror as students began jabbing pencils, pens, even sharpened wooden rulers into each other's sides during class. Instead of crying out or asking for help, the victims would double over in hysterical laughter as blood pooled underneath their shirt, creating a bloom of crimson in the cloth. You got me. You totally got me, they'd wheeze, their eyes bright with joy. The teachers never tried to stop them. I noticed most of them checking their phones more frequently, scrolling through something with a distant expression and snarled lip. Things at home got worse too. Dad had been drinking more since the move, and Danny's constant complaints about not having a phone were wearing on everyone. Last Thursday night, it all came to a head. Danny was whining again about being left out at school, about needing a phone to fit in. Dad had already downed his 4th beer for the night, and I could see his jaw getting tighter with each complaint. What do you want a phone for, huh? He thrust himself out of the rocking chair, suddenly exploding, his voice slurring. So you can send pictures of your small dick to half the girls in school? Dad, I tried to intervene. He whipped around to face me, his eyes wild and unfocused. "Don't dad me. What about you? I bet you're just dying to post slutty little videos for all the boys on MiMik like your classmates, aren't you?" The room went dead silent. Dad's face turned white as he realized what he'd said. He paused for a moment, his mouth struggling to form the words his brain desperately wanted to say. After another moment, he stormed off to his room without another word, leaving Danny in tears and me wondering how the hell my dad knew about MiMik. I left for school the next day without giving my dad so much as a glance. He let out a weak sigh as I walked down the stairs, but I didn't want to hear anything he had to say right now. I childishly held up my hand to cover the left side of my face, obscuring my peripheral view of him. I couldn't even look at him. A group of kids cornered me after last period, led by Jenny, and a few others I'd seen around. They all had their phones out, with that same vacant look in their eyes that I'd been seeing for weeks. "We can't let you stay disconnected anymore," Jenny said, in a voice that didn't quite sound like hers. "You need to see what you're missing." I struggled as two boys from a grade above mine grabbed my arms and pinned me against the lockers. "What are you doing?" I screamed. Jenny retorted, "It's for your own good. Do you really want to be an outcast your entire life?" My eyes scanned the hallways desperately for anyone that could help. I froze when I spotted Mr. Fredericks peeking around the corner with a vicious smile on his face. Drool dripped down the corner of his mouth, vibrating slowly, as if he was giggling uncontrollably. He was recording me with his phone. Jenny lifted her phone to my face, and I closed my eyes instinctively. The glow from the screen was ungodly bright and pierced through my eyelids. I felt their cold, rough hands grab my face, reaching for my eyelids. It took everything in my power to resist their slimy fingers as they began to pull the skin below my eyes down. Sharp fingernails began to dig into my cheeks and forehead as I screamed in agony. I couldn't resist anymore. I opened my eyes. My brain couldn't immediately process what I saw. It was both beautiful and horrific at the same time. I found myself shifting through emotions as if they were on a conveyor belt in my body. Intense pleasure, followed by seething anger, followed by guilt and loathing. Writhing shapes that hurt to look at, colors that don't exist, sounds that came through the screen and burrowed into my skull like living things, scratching their way out from the inside. I felt my consciousness starting to fray at the edges, reality unraveling into the abyss. I passed out. I woke up hours later on the bathroom floor with a bloody nose and a splitting headache. The school was eerily empty, even for 4 p.m. My head was spinning. As I walked down the deserted hallways, I finally noticed their disheveled state. Toilet paper splattered with a dark red fluid hung from the ceilings, draped over the lockers. Most of the classroom doors now featured different strange symbols painted on the windows. They hurt to look at. I headed for the exit and tripped over a pair of jeans left on the floor. I looked down and saw multiple piles of clothes scattered throughout the school. I just wanted to go home. When I arrived, there was a wrapped box on the kitchen counter with a note in Dad's handwriting. "Sorry I was so hard on you kids. I love you both. Love, Dad." I opened the box to find a brand new phone sitting on a silk pillow. My heart sank to my stomach as I noticed an empty space next to it. There was only one phone in the box, but the note said, "Both." I ran upstairs to Danny's room and shoved the door open. It was empty. A pile of his clothes sat on the floor with something etched into the hardwood beneath them. Symbols that made my eyes water when I tried to focus on them, drawn in what looked like blood. Danny was gone? That was 2 days ago. Dad hasn't come home since that night. I've been alone in this house, afraid to leave, afraid to stay. Sometimes I hear Danny's voice calling my name through the speaker of my new phone.